Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larbi.
Hey guys, welcome back. This week I have Dave Knight, and I wanted to do another one of those special episodes where we are just drinking wine and shooting the shit and just talking about like how everything is unraveling in this crazy, chaotic COVID world, and being landlords and real estate investors, and how we're dealing with social isolation. So we thought we would have two podcasters come together and try to keep it real as much as possible. Here is the thing: these are just our opinions. Do not take it for face value necessarily. Do your own research. I'm not responsible for anything I say. Dave is not responsible for anything he says either. But welcome to the show. How are you?
That's a good little blurb. I should put that before my normal podcast. No, it is a crazy time. And what's even crazier is actually, first off, cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Red wine. Hey, you're drinking red wine too. Is that your type of wine?
Yeah, I'm more of a red guy. I'm not into the white as much, and I like the heavy, thick, kind of oaky kind of wine. So Erin just buys it for me. I just tell her I like the Cab Sab, and she just does the rest. So
nice. Yeah, I am the same. I think I'm drinking a Ruffino right now, but I like the bold wines. Yeah. I like the red wines, the oak finished wines. The fruity wines I'm not so keen on.
I just always look for the bold and firm in the LCBOs, and then I just go from there.
That's it. So things are pretty crazy. I don't know if you've actually. So there's a couple things that have recently transpired. First thing, and I don't know if you've heard of this.
What's that?
Scotiabank recently. This came out yesterday to brokers, and it should have been announced today. That they said that now moving forward, HELOCs will no longer be able to be used as down payments for investment properties or as down payments.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So that's how we scale.
Exactly. So is that going to be a temporary thing, did they say, or that can't be a long-term deal?
I really hope not. So one of the concerns I have, so they're coming out with this, right? I mean, you can always refinance and you do a cash out refi, but a lot of the time you want the ability to not have to pay extra and just do a HELOC. And when you have a deal, then that's at that point in time, you can calculate the cost to service that HELOC into the new property. But my concern is, one started doing this, the other ones usually follow suit, right?
And I'm actually kind of surprised because you said Scotia, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like the most investor-friendly ones usually.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. It's kind of strange. But I've also heard that they've been a little bit more, they've been clamping down more than others too, just from people that I've talked to, as far as a Scotia's concerned. Now, I don't know if that's because maybe they're a little bit more leveraged because of us, or maybe higher risk, so to speak, and which I don't necessarily consider it high risk, but I don't know, just the way that their ratio is concerned, is that concerning? I don't know why they would do that.
I don't either. Here's the thing: is there's always workarounds. I can't formally say what the workaround is and record it, but here's the thing: is they need proof of payment for 90 days or more. Just leaving it at that.
Right. No, I know. There's always creative ways and tactical ways you can work around those stuff. But I mean, I guess do they have to track proof of transfer of funds too? And I mean, how can
3 months.
Yeah, but I just wonder, how they can really trace that for, Anyway, that's a strategic conversation you got to have with your broker.
That's it. Work with a mortgage broker. So, what are some of the crazy things you're hearing, and how's everything going for you when it comes to all of this crazy chaos?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is just I've been keeping up to date, honestly, just through podcasts. I've been listening to yours and a few others, and just kind of hearing kind of rumblings of what's going on down in the U.S. as well. But I mean, I've had my head down and just focusing on what I'm doing, and I find during these kind of times, that's really what you got to do. And every day changes. So, we could be talking about Scotia today, and then by the time this releases, I don't know how long that's going to be, but all the banks could be doing that. It'd just be common knowledge. So things literally change day by day. But then also you talk to people, and depending on who they talk to for customer service, whether it be like deferring their mortgage or whatever, they're getting different answers. So I find that like I don't know, it just depends on who you talk to. You're getting different answers, and things are changing all the time. So who knows how long this, the home equity line of credit rule is going to be in play. But as far as me, I'm fortunate in a sense that I actually sold a bunch of my properties, as you know, a few years ago, and actually in last year. So I have student rentals right now, and the rest is mostly into apartments. So just the scale of that, and being a passive investor, just talking to the investor down there, everything's going fine. I mean, they've lowered a little bit for the income, but the NOI. But other than that, the scale's been fine, and the cash flow's been fine, and there hasn't been any disruptions. So I've just been fortunate.
That's good. So you've got a few projects, I think, that you've got going on, Hamilton, et cetera. Like, what are you working on these days?
Yeah, so I'm in the kind of the final leg of my conversion. So I had a single, for those of you who don't know, I had a single family home, and I'm converting into a multifamily. So I'm just at the painting stage right now. Things slowed down quite a bit. I would have hoped to have been done by now, this week or so, but it looks like I'll be another probably 2 to 3 weeks. As you know, Rob, he does some of your stuff too. He's a good guy, so I'm always pushing him.
He's a good guy. He does great work. I will say I've been more hands off in his project that he's done for me than I've ever had to be in the past. Like, I've always had to babysit in the past.
Yeah.
But like him, I'm just like, just send me a video. And we're actually gonna go see it tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not driving. Matt will drive. But he's good work.
Yeah, you always pay for that too. I mean, a little bit more hands off, but the peace of mind that probably you and I both have now is night and day compared to what I had before. Because I was like you before. My last one that I did, I was all hands on. I was kind of learning a little bit more as I went, and I didn't really have much systems down, and I spent a lot of my own time figuring stuff out. So it's been a nice experience, but it's just we're all dealing with the same thing. Everything's slowed right down. So.
Yeah. So are they having just one person on the project?
No. Well, depends on what day. It's been hit and miss, but for the most part, there's been a few people on the job. There's a lot of guys. I mean, the last few weeks have been really difficult because one, some people didn't want to work, and then two, we didn't know, like, there's some factories that have been closed down, so just getting materials was difficult. Just kind of outsourcing that, trying to figure out who's open or we can sneak over to try and do some work. And it's just the way it is. So, but no, there hasn't been many. I mean, obviously safety and everything is number one. So there hasn't been more than about 4 people in the property. So, and it's different units too, right? So people are in different levels of the house.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, mine's just like a single technically. I mean, it's two units, but not really 2 units. You know what I mean? Like I think we were originally planning on moving into it, but I think we might sell it and try to get like a couple cottages or something.
Yeah, I remember you guys were planning on moving in there. So what happened? What was your thought process? I mean, obviously times have changed, so maybe that's obviously a big one, but.
Yeah, so I wanted to Airbnb it. So we were kind of going back and forth because like part of it is like the comfort of living in our house right now and not moving anything and not having to do any work with moving.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part, I'm like, okay, well, then before COVID, we're like, okay, maybe we can, because it's technically 2 units. We were going to live in it. We're going to Airbnb the basement, like here and there.
Right.
But we're like, well, we might as well Airbnb both of those units. And then like, essentially it would pay for us to live for free in Oakville. But I don't know if you know, I voted for Ford and I'm very disappointed with him right now. Politics, it is what it is. But he just put a fine. Anybody that right now, like recently, this came out 2 days ago. So depending on when this airs, it might be old news. But there's $100,000 penalty or a fine for short-term rentals. He has banned them.
I know. I did know that, and I was actually just reading it before. I'm in a group chat with well, Matt and a few guys were going to go to the cottage, but anyway, someone posted, the outline of that. It's crazy. So April 4th, I guess, was the deadline for that. Is that right? I'm just going to bring it up here.
Well, I think it's just moving forward. Anything short term is not approved. I mean, I guess unless you rent to people that need assistance.
Yeah, it says every person who provides short-term rentals and rental accommodations shall ensure that any rentals booked after April 4th are only provided to individuals who are in need of housing during the emergency period. So it does not apply to obviously hotels, motels, and student rentals or student residencies.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I would prefer them to come down with more of a safety regulation and health regulation on those type of rentals rather than just a strict ban. I mean, you're just completely eliminating income for people's livelihoods, let alone, I mean, an investment. It's just, it's shutting everything down. But I think for specifically short-term rentals, they could probably plan it out a little bit better. You know what I mean? Like, what's the concern of short-term rentals? Obviously, is the health and safety. I would assume is number one.
I hope so.
Yeah,
but I want to tell you what my thoughts are after. But I hope that's what it is.
Are we gonna go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories? Because I will.
Let's do it.
No, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, I would think that the concern would be people, going in and out of homes and not being, sanitized and cleaned properly and germs and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, if they had a protocol in place, maybe even services that they regulated or I don't know, something, but I don't know, they're just crank it down, making it harder and harder for us to make a buck. Like they're just compressing and controlling everything, I know.
It's driving me crazy. So here are my thoughts on this.
Okay.
I think the hotel industry, because a lot of it was coming from Airbnb, right? And isn't that a hotel lobby group?
Oh, here we go. I know where you're going now, but yeah, okay, go ahead. But I don't know.
Why would they fine $100,000? Here's the thing: if you had, I mean, and you and Aaron are good, Matt and I are good, but like, imagine if your relationship wasn't good and you had to be living with someone for like 24/7 for how many weeks? Mm-hmm. There's gonna be a lot of unfortunate divorces coming out of this. People are gonna want a place to like move into for 3 months or a month until they find something. Like they're taking that option away, I think.
Yeah. And what's the fine process? I mean, like, I've talked to a couple bylaw guys and they're as confused as the next person. I mean, like, how do you go in and regulate an Airbnb saying that someone's coming in and out? I mean, someone's like, oh yeah, it's a short-term Airbnb. Oh no, I'm here for 6 months. Okay, well, what's short-term? Like it doesn't even say in the regulation what that short-term period is defined as. And maybe it is somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, it is somewhere. I think it's 28 days. But do you think? Hey, just a theory. And because we're drinking wine, these are our opinions. We're allowed to share opinions. And like, if you guys don't like them, just tune them off and listen to the regular podcast.
You can get angry and throw some stuff around later. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So Ontario has a huge housing shortage issue and rental issue when it comes to, like, there's all of this talk about like how like rents are so high, rents are unfairly high, blah, blah, blah. Mm-mm. Do you think, and because the landlord tenant board is being shut down, and I really hope it's just because of health and whatever, and they haven't thought this through, but the landlord tenant board is shut down. As an investor, if I have a tenant that doesn't pay, it's going to take me 18 months easily to get them out. Mm-hmm. I might pay them cash for keys to hopefully get them to agree to it and get the hell out of my property if they're not paying. Luckily, I have good tenants, so I'm not talking about my tenants here.
Yeah.
But as an investor, or a newer investor, you might just say, you know what? I'm not going to even take that chance right now of having the board be shut and having a tenant that can't pay and having to wait 18 months and having to carry this whole thing. I'd rather just go short term or I'm going to sell. So do you think it's a way for them to say, we just want to make sure that the investors don't think that way, and we want to create more supply so the rents start coming down by having some long-term options?
Well, I think the uneducated investor, that might be the case. People freak out and start selling, and that kind of supply comes on the market. I mean, don't you think that in a world where, I mean, the community that we're in, everyone's very interconnected, everyone's sharing information. There's more podcasts now, there's more social media. I mean, not all social media is obviously accurate, but I would like to think that it wouldn't go to that degree, that there's going to be that much supply because people unload. But
or decide to take their Airbnb to long-term rentals. So now there is more options for people. And if there's more option, it's a supply and demand, maybe rents are going to go down.
Mm-hmm. Anything's possible. I just think the longer this goes, people are going to get absolutely crushed, and it's going to change. I mean, for small businesses and everything is more what I'm talking about. But I mean, that obviously everything is all interconnected, but yeah, I could see that more control, more availability because of the short-term rentals not being allowed, and then opening up to more availability. Yeah, I could see that, because otherwise, how else are we getting housing? I saw a stat today. I don't know if I took a photo of it, but it was actually, let me find it here. Where was it? Yeah, here it is. Ontario. There was a supply gap of almost 27,000 units needed for that were needed. So the demand just can't be met, and that's before all of this delay in construction and availability. Like, think about that. Mm-hmm. Like, what's that going to do? So I mean, think about on the flip side, that'll actually increase. Like, if this keeps going out, that'll actually increase rental demand, and then obviously, request for payments. I mean,
yeah, because I mean, one of the things is I was going to potentially take one of my Brantford properties and Airbnb it, but the other thing, and I was talking to Harry Fine yesterday, and he was on our webinar for the Right Club. Mm-hmm. His advice, and Harry Fine, for those listeners, he's a former adjudicator at the Landlord Tenant Board. Like, he's been there years and years and years. He knows what he's doing. You know what his advice was? Don't rent. Leave it empty. Or get 6 months cash up front from your tenants. 6 months of payments. Or just hang in there until it's all over. And it's better to leave an empty unit empty instead of putting a tenant and then having them fall behind, because you are going to spend way more by the time that you actually get to the board and get an eviction.
That's an interesting approach, but I mean, there's a lot of people that are stuck and screwed in where they are, especially if you're already battling it out with a tenant. I mean, and that's going to prolong everything like hell.
So what are you doing? Like, what are you doing these days? Like, how are you managing your business?
So like I kind of stopped earlier, but basically, so I'm doing that transition into multi unit there. So in my project in Hamilton. So basically, I'm at a time now where I'm coming to the end. I'm just waiting to get to a certain point where I start advertising and getting some photos up there and doing virtual, shots and video and everything, so people can kind of not actually go, but can see it online. And I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how the market is right now for renters, but I think, obviously everything's slowed down, but I think I'm going to have a better filter of possibilities and tenants and applications, because the only people that can afford first and last are going to be the ones that still have a job, I would like to think, right? What's your...
So here's my thing is, I'm probably going to ask people to give me, even if it's in a year from now or 2 years from now, I want to see their bank statements from March, April, May, and depending on how long this lasts, potentially June. I want to know if they had a job at that time, but regardless about that, like separately from that, did they pay their tenant or their landlord? Did they have money to pay? Did they not have money to pay? Did they come up with an arrangement? There's a lot of tenants on strike, trying to create these striking groups, not paying even if they can. And there's some people that just plan really, like very close to the edge, where a $500 mishap is the end of them. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of people in that situation. I'm not saying that, like, health first, you know, I care for people, of course. Like, I am a good landlord. My tenants do like me. I like my tenants. But like, the only thing we have to protect, the only thing that we have control over is screening.
Yes.
The second they have the keys, we're just like, really, like, let's face it, we're fucked at the end of the day. They have the keys. If they wanted to fuck us over, unfortunately, they could. So screening them to make sure that you don't have those people that can or would do that is huge.
Yeah. I mean, there also comes a line where people say, well, you know, I guess I always think of like both sides, right? And how to expect it. Or some people are going to say, well, I'm not going to show you all of my bank records. I mean, like, how invasive is that? And like, okay, well, don't.
Tenants are, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, can they falsify that? And how do you know that? You know, I've seen some crazy stuff even through work where you can't even tell what's real and what's not. I mean, they can fabricate some bank statements, and then how do you even know that that's true or not? You know what I mean?
And I will say, for those of you listening, Dave is a police officer, so he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't trust anyone. That's why. That's why I find my tenants have been pretty good, and I get very good. And I know you can't discriminate, or you can't, you have to have a certain system so you can justify your reasoning for getting people in your certain units and stuff. But when you interact with certain people like Matt and I do over the years, you get a pretty good judgment of people and judgment of character, like in the first 2 seconds. So. I mean, obviously, then they got to prove themselves too through different ways that we screen. But yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, moving forward, definitely. I'm going to be looking at different ways that you can, limit your risk. I mean, the one thing is 6 months. I mean, a lot of people, the average people, don't have 6 months of rent even saved.
No.
And so that'd be a hard one, like 3 months maybe, like just to see where they're at, even almost like a sense of, how much capital do they really have. But I mean, if they got 6 months of rent, I mean, they can almost, with a little bit of help of somewhere else, they can almost sometimes even go buy something,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I find that their credit is not 100%, but they might have the cash. I agree with you. It's probably not realistic for a tenant to have 6 months. If you're comfortable with 3 months and 4 months, that's fine. Here, for me, I almost would just rather let it like sit vacant until this is all over. Yeah. And then screen.
Well, that's an option. I mean, obviously I got a lot of scenarios thinking in my head because I'm kind of in that exact same boat. It's like, do I push forward and try and find a few good tenants to fill my thing? Because originally my plan was to fill it and then sell it. So I was flipping as a turnkey. And I have, my numbers are fine, so I could refinance and still be fine and pay back my investors with a little bit of capital in the property, but I was already prepared for that as like a buy and hold situation with that one. But, the other thing I'm worried about too, to just throw at you, I don't know if you heard more, but things are clamping down for the refis too. I mean, specifically my strategy is, not... my refi isn't on comparables, it's on the income. So are they going to be as lenient or liberal on lending just on the income versus maybe other comparables in the area?
I mean, that's the tough thing. Cause I will say, like, I had 2 refis recently, like in the last 2 weeks, and they both came much lower than I thought. So I'm fighting both of them. Mm-hmm. And just to give you an idea. So one house I know is like 370. So they came back at 320, 325. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how do you even come up with this number? So I sent them a bunch of comparables.
Yeah.
And by the way, just if you're refinancing something, just like add like 3 times the amount of time that it's going to take regularly, mm-hmm. because like they're so backed up. Mm-hmm. So I like send them a bunch of comparables and a bunch of comparables. Cheers, by the way. If you guys are listening to this, he's just pouring himself some more wine. But so I
gonna be plenty.
I sent them some comparables and they brought it up to 340, and I'm like, fine, whatever, I'll just take the 340. But it's crazy how much lower they're coming in at.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing too, is my option C was to literally do that, pay out my one investor, have my second investor stay in with me and just pay cash flow to them and do more like a JV situation, and do some type of agreement, but hold on for however long it needs to be until this market turns around or it gets a little bit more stable or what. But
so if you had a crystal ball, which you don't, but we're just going to speculate for fun, because why not?
Yeah.
How long do you like, when do you think we're actually going to be like, oh shit, this is the aftermath? And how long do you think that aftermath is going to take to recover?
Oof. I mean, who knows? Some people are saying like a couple years, and some people are saying like 3 months. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be quick, to be honest. I mean, there's such a impact. I think this is going to go at least a couple more months of shutdown, slow down, and at least until that curve starts coming down for people getting infected. So I don't know. I think at least a couple more months, and then I don't know how long this will last. I think it depends on the impact of small businesses and just the economy in general. Because if this goes any longer than, I would say, a few months, it's going to be a long recovery. Yeah.
Well, here's my thought. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
But I also think that there's still a lot of, like last time, 2008, there was a credit issue and there was no lending, right? So the banks all seized up. Well, that's not really the case this time, where everything's just kind of shut down. But everything was still humming really, really well. So, I mean, I'm not an economist and I don't pretend to be, but I mean, I would assume, the feeling that I get is everything was rocking and rolling, and then it was just kind of shut off. So when it gets shut back on or turned back on again, you would think that everyone's eager, ready to work, ready to go out, ready to spend money, back into restaurants, everyone feels safe and starts spending again. I think things could ramp up pretty quick. Don't you?
Maybe in some markets. So here are my thoughts on it. So I think right now people are like doing a wait and see approach. Even I was talking to about 3 private lenders last week, who work with a lot of, investors, and they invest anywhere between $1 million to $100 million. And on average, that's what they try to do a year in terms of loans. Their loan to value ratio is dropping from like 80 to 75 to 70. So they're not as, and then that's the ones that are loaning, right?
Yeah.
But separately, and again, these are opinions, and like, I don't have any facts. These are just my choices and my thoughts in my head over a glass of wine. But okay, so all of these people are taking these mortgage deferrals. The government is doing the CERB for 4 months. A lot of jobs are not coming back. Like, I think it was like stats today, 400,000 jobs are just gone forever. And that's just right now, depending, like you said, if this goes on and on and on, it's going to be much worse. But the people that are deferring their mortgages right now because they can't afford to pay, hopefully that's the reason, because otherwise, please pay your mortgage. Like, there's so many reasons, and I'm not going to get into that. We can, but pay your mortgage. But if you can't and you're doing the deferral, what happens in 6 months if those people don't have jobs? What happens in 6 months if those people don't have tenants paying those mortgages? So I think that we're going to actually feel it in about 6 to 9 months. Just my thoughts.
Yeah. I think for us especially, everyone's all worried about April 1st, but like you said, it's May, June, July 1st that I'm more worried about of people, right? I mean, people aren't getting their jobs back, and this is prolonging, and not everyone's, depends on the situation, you're able to defer it, but it goes a little deeper than just paying our mortgage, right? So,
oh, absolutely.
So, again, I think it all comes down to how long this shutdown lasts. Everything's just so connected. If one thing gets shut down, everything gets shut down, It's like the speed wobble. We were going so well with the tire, and then as soon as you start losing that momentum and you start getting, everything goes out of whack, and it's hard to get. Do you
think this is the right strategy? Because so there's this strategy with the whole social isolation and pretty much shutting down everything that's not essential, and most countries are doing this.
Yeah.
And then there's Sweden. Have you heard of Sweden?
What about?
So they're not following this everything shuts down. They're cautioning their people, and the economy is still flowing and things are still open.
And how's the rate of infection there?
It's similar.
Similar. I don't know. This is where you start getting into your conspiracy theory. I don't know. Like, why wouldn't that? Wouldn't that be a reason for a country to shut people down because of safety? And then if they're not, and their infection rate or their death rate or whatever it is isn't as isn't worse than what we are, then what the hell's going on? You know?
It's interesting. I will say, like, I
What
love
I
Canada, but like the control right now with the Airbnb and everything that's happening, I hope everyone stays safe, and it's important to have people that are healthy and safe and this and that. But is it worth doing that? Is it worse than heart attacks? Is it worse than suicides? Is it worse than overdosing? Is it worse than all of these things? Is it bad enough to shut the whole economy down where we've got
global economy.
a
Like,
global economy?
the whole world is in shutdown right now. And I know Sweden's going, and maybe maybe their import exporting isn't like others, but I mean their domestic economy is still flowing. But what bothered me right from the get-go is I'm the type of person, if you're going to do something, just do it. Like, I felt like this shutdown was kind of a half-ass shutdown. It was a bit of a, like, they're doing it all in stages, and I get it. And sometimes it's like psychological reasons. You can't just shut people down. People freak out, right? Look at all the toilet paper and all that bullshit that was going on. People going to the grocery store. Like, what the hell was that? And, like, there was a point there where they said people need to be quarantined for 14 days, so 2 weeks. Perfect. So they came out in stages, and then they came out in another stage, and they came out with the essentials, and then it was like a whole huge long list of us. Like, everyone was an essential. And then
I know, and it's like, okay, what did they actually shut down?
yeah, like I remember I was sitting at work and I was talking to Rob, and I'm like, dude, man, like, I think we're gonna be shut down here. So, and then they come out with the list, so I like screenshot, I sent
Wait,
them. I'm like,
how are you going to get shut down? Oh, you mean the construction, not the policing?
no, yeah. So our job, like our renovation, and I just laughed when I started reading the list. I'm like, this is like everybody. And then I felt bad for the people who had to get shut down because and then the roads were still busy at that point. Like the first, I think it was right after it was the long list of essentials, and people were still driving and walking around and going to Costco, and things weren't like it was now. And I don't know. I just feel that they should have. And this is personally, what do I know? But if I think that they should have shut it down real quick, real tight, give certain guidelines to people, real essentials. I'm talking groceries, even bank online, whatever. Your real necessities in life, keep those open, shut construction down, everyone isolate for 2 to 3 weeks, bite the bullet, hit the curve, and see what happens there. Like, wouldn't you would think that would cut things a little bit quicker rather than this long, drawn-out process that we're doing now.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, like, I haven't gone anywhere except for the bank once and Shoppers once in the last 3 weeks. But
the bank's a fun time to go to. I had to go pay Rob, so I go to the bank. I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you in about an hour. I just got to go stop off at the bank. And then I get there, like, first thing, I get there early. And the first hour at TD is for seniors. So there's obviously all the seniors are going. So I'm first in line on the second line. And I'm seeing all these seniors go in before me. And so I finally get in there about a half hour later. But it's not a quick process. But even the bank around the corner from me was shut down for a couple of weeks because someone in there had it. So
interesting.
It's it's wild. I don't know.
I went to the bank yesterday. I don't know, maybe it was just the time of day. I think it was like 3:00 or something along those lines. And there really wasn't anybody there. But here's the thing. So I want to actually talk to the listeners right now. And I don't know if you're doing this, but like, if your mortgage broker has put you on advanceable mortgages, so like with Scotia, it's called the step mortgage, and like everybody has a different name for it, which essentially what an advanceable mortgage means is that for every dollar that you pay in principal, you have $1 of HELOC that opens. So for those people that have that, you probably have some equity there. here's the thing. And I was talking to my mortgage broker, and she's like, you should probably get that available and unlocked so that you can access it, because the more credit you have, and you never know when they're going to make changes to like, you know, what credit is available and not. So I just went and unlocked that, and it was like thousands and thousands of like available dollars. But it's good to have as a buffer, because I'm like, I don't know when they're going to say one day, you know what, we're just going to take that away from people, and like things change every day. So
I have that on my student house, and yeah, that adds up pretty quick. I mean, the most powerful thing in these situations right now is your availability to credit, you know, or your access to credit.
Absolutely. But you know what a really cool trick is?
What's that?
If you have an advanceable mortgage, this is why I don't think people should delay their mortgage payments. Just keep paying your mortgage payment. If you have an advanceable mortgage, take that, pay your mortgage with your advanceable mortgage. And then essentially all the principal that you pay comes back into your HELOC anyways. So you're paying interest payments for like, if you need to, have it available.
No, that's smart. Isn't that, I had them on my podcast, but I don't remember the details of this, the Smith maneuver. Isn't that a similar way of doing things? Have you heard of the Smith maneuver?
I have heard of it. Can I tell you what it means? Probably not right now.
and I had him on my podcast, so.
I don't think it's that. Maybe it is. I don't know. All I know is that like advanceable mortgages, just utilize them instead of deferring your mortgage payments for 6 months, because you're going to be better off and you're not going to have to pay interest on interest.
Yeah. You know what? So I don't mean to jump too much here, but so LTB, the fact that they're shut down for 6 months, and so
hang on. We don't know if it's 6 months. It could be less. It could be more.
Okay. Well, I heard 6 months, so hopefully that.
Wait, did you hear? Okay, question. Sorry. Did you hear 6 months because your courts are closed until September?
In my head, sorry about that. Yeah, that's
no, that's okay. But that's probably very true. That is like, so your courts are gonna not open until September.
Correct. Yeah. So right now, if we're like, if we like arrest someone or whatever, we're doing a court date. Yeah, it's not till September now. So, but I don't understand why they can't figure out to do things remotely, like in this day and age. And I know you can call in, and I know they're only doing limited hearings, so emergency hearings, whatever the hell that means. But as far as, you know, the everyday person who's not getting paid and everything's all drawn out, and I know a number of people who've been waiting like 4 or 5 months and then just got shut down right before this whole thing happened. Now they're going to be waiting another who knows how long, right? So I just don't understand why they can't be a little bit more proactive, considering they were already in a crisis to begin with. You know, like, is there no forward thinkers in that area, in that group, or what?
The broken system. It is like the main thing that makes my blood boil these days is that broken system. But as landlords, like, we really have to figure out how to create one voice and like fight for this, because in a way we're being stepped on by the government, by the tenants groups that are organizing and trying to tell others not to pay rents, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But it's been a broken system, and it's been very geared towards tenants. Yeah,
100%. What really opened my eyes is I didn't really realize our system was so lopsided, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tenants need their rights, and there can't be, you know, bullied by landlords, and there has to be systems in place. I understand that. But if you go outside of our province, especially down in the U.S., and some are obviously lopsided too, it's more landlord friendly. But I mean, it makes a little bit more sense down there. I mean, if you can't pay, you know, for instance, you know, Florida, if you can't pay your rent after 60 days, you're out. Right.
And it's the same thing. Like, if you had anything that you couldn't pay, like, something is going to happen. There's consequences, and it shouldn't take months.
And I get you don't want to kick people to the curb, and you need to protect people who are in hard situations, but there's obviously resources and programs for that, where if you're, you know, if you fit that criteria, then those systems and those programs should be available to you. But it's so lopsided, and it's just not efficient, and it's just so backed up. And especially for a crisis that we're in, you would think that they would get a little bit more on the proactive side. But yeah, it's fucked. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of landlords are going to get out of this after this is all said and done.
Yeah. So you had what's her name on your last podcast? That was a good one.
Kayla?
Yeah, Kayla. Yeah, she's on board with the Ontario Landlord Watch, is it?
Yeah, so we're starting a lobbying group for landlords. It's going to be Ontario Landlords United.
Tell your passion through your story posts that you're doing on Instagram. I was like, she's fired up over there. Something's gonna come out of this.
And you know what? I can't just sit there and like let this happen to us. I will say real estate has been the best thing that happened to me, and I'm here today because of real estate, and I will always say it's great. But the landlord tenant board portion and the fact that some tenants can get in and be professional tenants, right? Quote unquote. Screw the system, play with the system because they know it really well. And screw over the landlords, like that's not cool.
Yeah.
You know, and vice versa, like there's bad landlords too. I'm not saying that like all tenants are bad and all landlords are good. Like there's bad for both and there's good for both and most are good for both.
For sure. And I find that the space that we're in, I know I said this earlier, but like the community of investors in Ontario and, meetup groups and that sort of thing. And people have got podcasts, they're doing a good thing because I feel like that community is well educated, well diverse. They got, they're doing things genuinely for the most part. Obviously you got your bad apples everywhere, but we're coming from it from like a genuine place and trying to help the other person through. But it's so backlogged. It's just, there's no one really fighting it, like you said. So I'm glad that, whatever is going to happen moving forward, we can change some things.
It's a long uphill battle. Like we really have to like all be on board, and we're going to have to hire some lawyers. Like there's going to be some expenses, right? In order to get this going. But, we got to try, because if we don't now, like this is a great time in a way, because everyone's like, oh crap, what's going to happen in May? Oh crap, what's going to happen in June? What's going to happen to like, this is actually good. Unfortunately, it's a good time because everyone feels it. Yeah. Versus when everything is good around us, it's like, we don't have fire under our asses, or we don't have an urgency, or we don't have a problem that's like, I am angry at how this is happening. But a lot of people are like, okay, am I going to get rent on May 1st? Because here's the thing is, even if your tenants are good tenants, because all of mine paid. I had one that was like $200 short, but like she's awesome, and I believe that she will catch up.
Yeah.
But like if this goes on till May, and then this goes on till June, and your rents are in the GTA, you're probably going to fall. Like your tenants are falling behind unless they have already a cushion.
Yeah.
And then what?
I know everyone's in the same boat. It's all going to come crashing down in a certain sense of inability to pay. It's crazy. It's times like this where either there's so much opportunity to happen, but also you see where everyone's vulnerable and where all the holes are, and it's you just got to patch all the holes as quickly as you can and move forward and kind of persevere, right? And use all your resources possible to get through the hard times. But as soon as we get, I don't know, I keep going back. I don't think it's going to be going for another 6 months. I can't see it. I can't see the government letting that happen. I can't see the world, leaders making that happen. Like, it just economically, things can't go to a halt, I would think, for 6 months. I mean, we're already at, what are we, 1 month now? 2 months, or a month and a half?
Yeah, I think there's going to be much bigger problems. Like, I don't know if you can share this, but like, has the suicide rates gone up?
I don't know the stats on that. I know our domestic calls have gone out, are up. Our mental health has gone up for sure. More so mental health for sure. Even just little things like people, who already suffer with whatever it is they're dealing with. And then you're told that you got to lock in your house, and you put other pressures on top of that. You might lose your job. I mean, holy crap! The weight of the world starts pushing down on you, right? And then you're trying to get out to your doctors and your programs, and those are all backed up. Like the whole thing just gets screwed up. So it's a domino effect in everything, right? But it's like those are definitely increased for sure.
I think everybody that's dealing with this right now, once we're through this, like we're going to be so much stronger than we ever were. Like, I think it's going to be something that we can all be proud of. Like, 2 years from now, this will not be an issue. Like in the long term, this will not be an issue. And I think it's in a way like a really awesome thing that we're like, hey, we went through this, we dealt with it. Here's how we picked ourselves back up. And it might take time, and it should like this is shit. Like it sucks. Right. And like, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But it sucks.
It's adversity. It's like just persevering through this stuff. And I've had this conversation with someone else actually just recently. It was like, the last time was 2008. And what was I doing in 2008? Well, I was not an investor. I was not aware of certain mindset and strengths of investing and persevering through times like this and how you can prepare and blah, blah, blah. Whereas like now, obviously I'm a little more mature and I'm ready, and I'm almost like not enjoying it because no one's enjoying this, but it's like I'm ready for anything. Like I feel like I'm very confident. I can tackle anything that comes our way. There's enough resources. Everyone is dealing with the same shit. It's not like Sarah Larbi is the only one going through this. It's we're all going through this, right? So whatever comes our way, I'm ready to deal with, and I know like I'm not worried. I'm just concerned how long this is going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not worried about my financial piece because I think I've always had a good cushion, and I've always looked at the good and I looked at the bad times that could happen. Mm-hmm. I think I'm more worried about where society is going to go and where society is going to be in the government control, and not to speculate, but like, what else is happening that we don't even know is happening? Like, why is the U.S. invading Venezuela? Like, why?
Well, apparently the cartel was, I don't know. Honestly, I don't even want to make an attempt to sound intelligent on that conversation. I just know from the little blurb that I saw was just that, the general down there was saying that it was the drug cartel that was trying to get into the country. And then I also hear that there's like human trafficking down there, and then I also hear that there's stuff with the drug trafficking and getting feedback or bounce back or commissions from the drug that's infiltrating the border. So I have no idea. I really have no idea. But it's happening, and no one's talking about it. It's not on the news, and it's crazy what's going on down there.
I mean, I think ultimately it's just, first and foremost, it's important that we're all safe and we're all healthy. And like, I actually have some friends with COVID, and like, unfortunately her mom also got it, and she's on a ventilator right now. Like it sucks, right? Like it sucks, but we also have to be, I think, just aware of like what else is happening around us without like necessarily conspiring, but we have to like take a step back and see like what else is happening. And all this, I think we just make our own decisions, and this is really, and I was talking to Gary about this, and it's true. It's a test in mental strength, because we all break down. Like yesterday, I was like so pissed off at anything, but then you hear about like somebody's bomb on a ventilation machine. I'm like, oh shit, my problems are like nothing. Like, suck it up,
Yeah. Well, like even the not conspiracy, but the push for like Bill Gates doing mandatory vaccinations. And then did you hear about they want to actually force on the people to actually have like it's almost like a chip where they can monitor vaccinations for the public to see what you've had, what you haven't had, and then monitor who knows what. Have you heard of that? The ID 2020 that is kind of going through Gates. And again, I don't know enough about it. I've just been sent a few stuff on my phone that I kind of read.
I saw a couple articles. I mean,
a legit movement that he's pushing.
Yeah, because everyone's just so worried and isolated, and they can't they're so concerned about everything else that they don't have time to see like what maybe is actually happening. And I really just hope that it's not. And this is just conspiracy.
Yeah. And they just passed the 5G, or they're pushing that through Congress too. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to really even have
opinions.
I just know that it's going on, and the average person is probably in the same boat as we are. It's like we're focusing on what we're doing, we're distracted, and other things are happening in the background, way way above our pay grade, obviously. So I don't know. I just hope that there's not too much control going on, and we all get out of this and aren't affected too much. But mandatory vaccinations is definitely the one that scares me. It's kind of.
I will tell you, Sweden seems like a really awesome country to move to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little cold. Probably too cold for me. But I really don't like being controlled in general.
I thought we were supposed to be similar to Sweden. What happened to that?
I don't know. You know what? Here's the thing. You know, we'll get out of this at some point. This will be a part of like a story that we're gonna tell about like how this was our life and this was how we came out of it, and this is how we came better. And like I think we can only look to create a positive story out of this horrible time. It is horrible. I cannot even imagine what some people are dealing with. Like, so like for me, it's just Matt and I. For you, it's just Aaron and you. Mm-hmm. But like people with kids that don't get a break 24/7. I mean, like, thank you, parents. Like, my goodness, like you guys deserve way more credit, and you should probably be paid way more to just have the kids and having to take care of the kids, and teachers too, and frontline workers and all that stuff. But
I know. I feel like I'm almost like detached from reality to a certain extent, because as Matt's the same boat. And Erin, she's a paramedic, my girlfriend, and our salaries aren't touched. Things are just moving along like normal. I mean, obviously we deal with a lot of shit out there, and this is just a different part of that shit that we deal with, and nothing really changes for us. I mean, obviously health concerns is obviously a big one, but I'm talking about financially. Like, we just kind of just keep moving along, and then everyone around us, or a lot of people around us, are suffering big time, and we don't really feel that as the average first responder or healthcare worker or whatever. I mean, city workers, depending on what your job is, it's just like there's a lot of people suffering out there, and I think we gotta take a step back and realize that. That's why, when you start dealing with your tenants and talking to your tenants, it's people say serve the N4 and do this, and you might do that or not, but you need to have that conversation with the people who are going through a really, really serious hard time, and work with them and empathize and be compassionate, and rather than just, here you go, see you on the flip side. It's a tough place to be.
I 100% agree. I'll tell you, I didn't serve an N4 to the tenant that was $200 short, because she's been a tenant and she's been amazing since 2015 and paid on time, and like, you know what, you gotta be,
and even if you
gotta be firm, you gotta be consistent. But here's the thing, is that you also have to know your tenants, and exactly. Good relationships will work themselves out throughout of this, and where relationships that were iffy may not. And we do try to go above and beyond to make sure our tenants are happy in the homes. If there's any maintenance issues, like, we are there, like, we organize it. I mean, I wouldn't redo a kitchen or anything, but like anything that they need maintenance wise, communication wise, like, I think it's just important that, like, they're clients. I wish the government treated us landlords as clients. Airbnb, I will say, is great to people like us as tenants, or as clients, but it's important to treat them like paying clients, because they are paying clients. That's a different side. And then there's the side of tenants that are just looking out to get back at us, and that have something up their asses. There's it's just a different spectrum, just like there's like slumlords. There's horrible landlords out there. Hopefully you are not. And I know you are not, because you're listening to this. So you want to, do things and improve and do well and learn. There's some slumlords out there, and I hear some stories. That's, unfortunate too.
And unfortunately, they give us a bad rap, and then the bad tenants give all the other tenants a bad rap for future investors. I mean, no one wants to get in. Some people don't want to get into investing because they hear, oh, I don't want to deal with bad tenants. And then some people don't want to rent, be like, I don't want to get stuck with a bad landlord. It's just one of those things where. But that it goes back to, A, like you said, communication throughout the whole process. That's huge. And then 2, your screening process too, is not putting yourself in that situation where you have those professional tenants, and then just dealing with people who are, reasonable people who are going to get through this process with you, the landlord, because it's just one of those spots. It sucks, but
it does. Hey, so Dave, I know we can keep talking about this and keep drinking, but you know what? My glass is empty. I got to refill it. It's downstairs. Where?
Through the.
through the video. There you go. You got your bottle. Dave, where can listeners reach out and find out more about you?
Sure. I got my podcast, so it's First Responders Wealth Network. You can find that anywhere, obviously. And if you want to go to my website, 911wealthnetwork.com. I got an ebook and audio book there, or just email me info@911wealthnetwork.com. And Instagram too, @DaveNighter. So you can reach out to me.
Cool.
More active on that one. So yeah.
Awesome. Any final last words of advice?
Just persevere, just get through this. We're all going through it. I think like just connecting with people who are going through the same thing, mutual investors, things are changing daily. So just stay up to speed, reach out. That's why networking and relationships is huge during times like this. So just don't fear real estate. It's still a great avenue, and we'll all get through it together.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you, Dave, for being on the show. And listeners, if you enjoy these kinds of podcasts where we're just drinking wine and just talking and sharing your opinions, again, don't hold us to any of our opinions, please, because they are just that, opinions. Let us know. Reach out to Dave.
One more thing. If anyone's interested in a 3-unit in Hamilton, you reach out to me as well. So it's cash flowing and a great cap rate.
Awesome. Perfect. Sounds good. Dave, thanks so much.
All right, cheers. See you, sir.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larbi. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?